I'm not surprised no one is thinking about these players' irons going into 2025.
However, that doesn't mean that it's not a huge mistake.
Because I have 3 irons that promote 3 different great qualities at 3 different price tags, 300, 400 and 500 pounds. And with the results at the end of this video show you what makes a great player's iron.
Tell you what, this didn't make the list today as it's basically only a year old and still quite expensive. But when this does drop in price, this will definitely be in my player iron list without a shadow of a doubt.
Guys, how you doing? Welcome back to a brand new video. Simon here, SAS Golf Academy, and let's talk about low handicap golfers, their irons, and what makes a player's iron. Why are we trading that lovely forgiveness from cavity backs? What are we actually gaining from it?
For example, something like this came out the same year as that Wilson Staff Model CB, and if I swung it exactly the same speed as I just did there, I got about 180 yards worth of carry with the more bladed cavity back head. And then with this thing, all of a sudden, I'm near on getting 200 yards, 220 yards worth of carry with it. For me, that is incredibly low when it comes to spin, meaning that I have very little control when it comes to front to back dispersion from this kind of distance. Whereas, let's use a blade. And a lot of you will go, Simon, of course it's not gonna go as far. It's got more loft. And yes, that is true. But it's got a smaller head. So not only am I getting more spin, I'm getting a more penetrating ball flight, which is what is meant by control. Yes, we want feedback from these smaller heads. Yes, we want to know exactly if we hit it well or not, but we want control over these shots. Meaning that if I'm into wind, downwind, wind off the right, wind off the left, it's less likely to be affected from those external influences. As you can see there, that's the spin that I'm expecting from a 7-iron. And because I'm faster and because I can find the middle of the face more often than not, I don't need the forgiveness and I certainly don't need the extra distance.
However, what happens if I want a touch of forgiveness? Not a cavity back, but something a bit more meaty behind it, just in case I do hit it slightly out the toe and the heel, and I don't lose 60% of my distance. Well, let's start with my 300-pound option, and obviously thank the sponsor of this video, Swingtweaks.
Because this Cobra iron is very different from the other Cobra irons, and I'll explain why in a minute. And Swingtweaks is very different from the other coaching online platforms because it offers high quality professional PJ advice, but at very affordable prices, which is why it's such a great partner for this channel.
All you need to do is download the Swingtweaks app and send a video face on and also down the line with a brief description of what you need help with and what you're looking to improve. You will then be sent by one of their qualified pros analysis on your swing, as well as tips, drills and links to video to further cement those changes, just like I've been doing with my backswing feeling to get it back where it should be and ultimately help my scores on the course. So why do these feel so different? You can kind of see it there, MIM technology, metal injection molding. Now, when it comes to Cobra and irons, you could say that the brand's not necessarily very well known for their players' irons. Back that up as well, typically, especially their game improvement irons, some of the most de-lofted clubs to ever hit the market, which basically means you probably only need 4 of them in the bag. What I have in my hands here, however, is a very respectable 33 degrees. If I compare it side by side next to this Model CB here, it's interesting because it almost looks like the King by itself, standalone, is a quite big chunky head, but in reality, it kind of deceives us. It's virtually the same size as that CB and almost identical heel to toe width as well. The difference is, this one came out last year and still goes for around £700, even second hand. This one here came out 4 years ago and can be snapped up for around £300. Cobra on the right, PXG on the left. And as you can see, the PXG does a rather good job of hiding
well, that top line and virtually everything else that's underneath it. And let's be honest, it looks a lot less offset as the Cobra as well. And the reason why I say it does such a good job of hiding everything underneath is that we're now into the distance category, as this is the strongest lofted option through this list at 32 degrees compared to the other two that are 33.
However, with this, and obviously my last choice as well, it's so difficult for me to recommend
low handicap or even mid to low handicap irons, i.e. anyone that's 15 or below, because it can vary so much. For example, you've got players that potentially need cavity back heads, bigger heads than these, because they need help with distance. They are phenomenal. They used to play off 2 when they were in their 30s. But slowly creeping up to an 8 handicap, 9 handicap, 10 handicap, purely because they're just losing distance. Now, for those particular players, this is still probably too lofted for them. But what happens if you're that player that is quite fast? You like the idea of a blade and standing over something that's basically a knife, but isn't. This is by no stretch of imagination a knife. There's plenty of stuff underneath the hood here. And as I'm showing you with the prices on the right-hand side, I see quite a lot of these go for around £400, maybe slightly less at auction. All of these at auction in your safe searches are going to go for a rather reasonable amount of money. But even the professional sellers have got them around £450 odd. Buy it now, meaning that you could have these by the weekend. Oh, that is absolutely flushed. And my point is, when we look at the results at the end, it's not the fact that these are the best players' irons in the world, but they're certainly not the worst. If anything, some of these have better attributes than, let's say, the more mainstream players' irons, and at a fraction of the price. Especially when we know at this level, and especially if you are a low handicap golfer, how important technique is. Which brings us on to our last iron, which ties this video up very nicely, because this doesn't look like a player's iron. Definitely doesn't look like a low handicap iron, let alone a Tour Pros iron. And the fact that Victor Hovland has been using the older version of these for a considerable amount of time and still using them as of today sums up a nice little message through this video. There's not really such a thing as a low handicap iron, player's iron, but more, what does that golfer require more? Does he require feel? Does he require feedback?
Because this is where shaft and head combinations come in, because both of these heads are lofted at 33 degrees. And by all means, this is a great value iron. I probably could put this in the list instead of this if I wanted to have 3 sets of irons around £350. Built like a tank, very forgiving, and going to produce more backspin for you guys that want more backspin. Don't want your 7 iron to go 180 yards. Want to have that shot that you can commit to, and it's never going to go out the back of the green. And as we go into the numbers and we quickly look through these 3 different irons, well, there's my mistake at the moment. That block to the right-hand side where I get stuck on the inside, and something, again, I'm still working on. However, if we look through these dots from all the irons that I've seen here today, well, it's quite difficult to tell them all apart, isn't it? And the last factor that I'll have to leave you with in terms of what made these go higher, what made them spin more. Yes, the shaft played a huge part. The 0311 launched the highest and spun the most. Why? Because even though it's got 32 degrees loft, 1 less loft than the other 2, it's got a higher launching shaft than the other 2. Notice the Cobra spun the least amount, launched incredibly low. Is that down to the shaft? Well, no. You could argue, and I am arguing, it was the first in the list, the cheapest option. Meaning, as I warmed up through this list, highlighting the importance of technique, trying to get those impact factors correct, that messed up my numbers, and therefore messed up my launch and spin with this iron. 18 launch, 5,400 spin. Are these the best player low handicap irons in the world? Probably not. Would they be very close to those hypothetical irons in terms of performance? Yes. Are they considerably cheaper than a brand new set of those said hypothetical irons? Yes. And if you're a mid-handicap golfer looking to get more control, better feedback, and finally get the feeling of that buttery feel off the face, well then these 3 options here are certainly a nice place to start. Guys, thank you ever so much for watching this video. Go and check out Swingtweaks and its app if you want high quality coaching at affordable prices, and I'll catch you in the next one.